Hello guys, AbsolX Guardian here. In this video we will be talking about one of my favorite shows, Steven Universe. Yada yada yada, great show, you should watch it, etc, etc. Anyway, this theory is up to date with information up to Onion Gang. The script was written just after Buddy's book aired, but was edited for any new major pieces of information. Now, you probably saw the title and thought something like, what? This can't be true. I've got to see this. But I assure you that I have evidence for my theory that Connie is a gem. The first piece of evidence that would jump to your mind would be Connie fusing with Steven. You would then brush it off just like how the show does, that Steven is part human, so he can fuse with another human. However, this isn't correct. I will prove that Steven's body, just like the gems, is a hard light projection, simply in human form, and that's why he has gen powers, because those would be much more complicated in a human body. Well, for one, he can partially shapeshift, but also expand his body, yada yada yada, fancy science terms, conservation of mass, etc, etc. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's much easier to shapeshift if your body is a projection. The same thing happens when Steven stops naturally aging when he turns 9, but can shapeshift himself to look older. He can also take hits with the durability of a gem, showing only black eyes and bruises, and can move at a semi-teleportation speed. See, this example is not an artistic choice, as Greg then comments on it.
Fast there.
The biggest kicker is the insane strength Steven has that shouldn't happen with a physical body that small. Here's a compilation.
Jeez, what does Greg feed that kid?
Now you may be saying, what about the gem destabilizers? Well, the destabilizers aren't based on destroying all projections, but destabilizing projections with gem structures. Even if it was normal electricity, Steven should be more damaged than the gems. Most gemstones can't conduct electricity, while humans can. That's why you die when you get electrocuted. So we have ruled out that the destabilizers are pure electricity. My theory is that they, along with the force fields, destabilize the microscopic structures in gems' bodies, causing them to poof. And that's why Steven can get black eyes and bruises. His human form has shapeshifted a lot of unnecessary human components to it. And that is why the projected blood cells attempt to congregate at the wound, causing bruises, even though that's not necessary. Same reason why he can eat without any shape-shifting and all other human things. He doesn't need those, he just thinks he needs those because that's how he was raised. They never tested things like, oh, can we starve Steven and he'll survive? The gems don't do that. And, of course, he can breathe in space. When he confronts Lapis, as you can see, when he confronts Lapis, they're in space, yet he survives just fine. And then in Bubbled, he stays conscious for more than 15 seconds.
You're gonna fight. Take it outside. You can't get through us that easy. I bet she can.
And that is humanly impossible to do in a vacuum. Oh wow, that was a lot of time spent trying to prove that Steven's a projection. But this means that Steven shouldn't be able to fuse with a human any more than his mother could. Okay, now we get back to the main theory. If Connie is a shape-shifted gem, then she would be able to fuse with Steven just fine. We've never seen a gem unshape-shift for fusion, so it could be possible for a gem to create shape-shift-based fusions. Now you may be saying, what about shape-shifting time limits? Well, being able to shapeshift isn't a given for gems anymore with Paradox Revelation and Too Short to Ride. This gem is probably an Era 2 gem, and that was part of what caused the resource shortage. Now, why would Homeworld create an expensive gem just after a costly war? That will be expanded more on later in this video when I go into what gem would take Connie's place and what their motivation would be. Another piece of evidence is that resource allocation could lead to extended shapeshifting time. Let's take bismuth for an example. Bismuth's purpose is construction, but when we see her doing her blacksmithing, she uses her hand hammer. Now, if you have an army of bismuths using their hand hammers and other shapeshifted hand tools to build your next sky arena or something, them having to rest because they shapeshifted too much would be a waste of time. As for the color problem, a gem being created differently to allow more accurate copying is probably possible, as the purpose of gems being able to shapeshift normally is allow them to do other things by changing their shape. Like, you can't reach something on the top shelf, just shapeshift, then you can reach it. You don't have to change your color to get that advantage. However, if you are a gem spy and are disguising yourself as, say, a peridot to make sure everyone's following the rules in the kindergarten, if you were purple, then everyone would know that you're not a peridot. So color changing is part of the gem's powers. Alright, so now we have proven that Connie being a gem is possible, but is it at least somewhat probable? Well, the first question is, why would a gem be sent to Homeworld, and what time frame are we working with? Well, I think the trigger for sending a spy to Homeworld was the destruction of the red eye in the second episode. Your device just stops transmitting, so you want to send someone down there to see what happened to it, right? Well, Peridot did come to Earth under the belief that the null data was a negative report on the presence of gems. I think that was simply what she was told. Yellow Diamond or another high-ranking gem saw the report and assumed that it was a negative, and so they sent Peridot. However, I think another high-ranking gem, maybe even White Diamond, saw the report and decided to send the spy instead. This information wouldn't be communicated to Peridot, leaving her in the dark. Now, Connie didn't show up until the 7th episode, leaving an unknown time period for the spy to show up and take Connie's place. She could have been on a closer planet than Peridot, meaning she arrived sooner. If she witnessed either Cat Fingers or Frybo from afar, then she would know that Steven possessed gem powers, or that gem-related events happened near the beach with the giant statue. Also, yes, I believe the spy has not been Connie the entire time, but instead took Connie's place by killing the girl. Too dark for a kid's show? I don't know. Steven Universe doesn't exactly qualify as a kid's show. The spy has also just been pretending to have all of Connie's memories by faking it and watching Connie prior to taking her place. Considering that gem language is much more complex than ours, an intelligent gem could probably get through school with good grades while figuring out simple things on her own, and anything that she was taught beforehand, she could look at Connie's old notes or research it. Also, the first time we see Connie is reading a book under the cliff on the beach. Out there, you have to deal with glare and sand. There's no reason to read a book on the beach when you could read it at home, unless she was staking out the gem base. The other thing is her skill with sword fighting. Although she probably didn't use a sword as her gem weapon and wasn't used to fighting in her new body, she develops a lot of skill with sword fighting quickly. And if she had used a sword-like weapon as her gem weapon, this would be why. You see her using advanced moves and was probably less than a month. Now, she does look behind her when she's first starting out, but that is again her using a body that probably feels like it's made out of glass to a powerful gem. Now, we don't get a shot of her stabbing the holographic pearls, so we don't know if she makes the other starting mistake, which is closing your eyes when you attack someone. I know this because I took fencing, alright? The other piece of evidence from Sworn to the Sword is how quickly Connie subscribes to Pearl's do-it-for-him doctrine. This just seemed a little odd for a teenager living in capitalist America, a place that pushes self-identity so strongly. However, she was raised on Homeworld, it makes much more sense. Connie wants to protect Steven from the Homeworld gens, and sacrificing yourself for this is normal on Homeworld. Another piece of Connie's psyche that points to her being a gem is found in mindful education. One criticism of the episode is how Connie's problem was simply her judo flipping a kid and spraining his arm, while Steven has to deal with his gift from poofing bismuth, leaving the rubies in space, and Jasper being corrupted. However, Connie seems to have a lot more butterflies than should be possible from just that one problem. She never really seemed insecure in previous episodes. Well, in my theory, since becoming Steven's friend, Connie has seen the error in Homeworld's ways and feels guilty from lying and tricking the crystal gems and all the other Homeworld gems she did when she was a spy. However, she closes those feelings off so much that in the Fusion Mindscape, only a representation of those butterflies are shown. That's why the butterflies fused together and showed Jeff being flipped. Also, Connie isn't learning hand-to-hand combat, she's learning sword fighting. Unless, if she was a gem spy, then she would have had to learn hand-to-hand combat for times when she couldn't summon her weapon, as that would blow her cover. Speaking of fusion memories, why doesn't Steven know about Connie's secret if he had fused with Connie previously? Well, the memories of the parts don't always go into the fusion, and the memories from one part are rarely given to the other part. This is shown in the Sardonyx arc, as Sardonyx doesn't know about Pearl destroying the Lunar Sea Spire, but Opal knows about Steven. Fusions can also have their own memories and skills that aren't given to the parts. As an example, Smoky Quartz can't shoot a bow, even though Amethyst is part of Opal, and she's the archer. You may have noticed how earlier on I mentioned that Connie could be White Diamond's gem. Now this is a mini theory within my own theory, but this gem spy is probably White Diamond's, as White Diamond possesses the most power compared to all the diamonds. Not only does she have the most planets in her mural, she's holding an orb which probably represents Homeworld. This way she could command such a powerful gem as the spy and withhold information about sending said spy to Earth from Yellow Diamond. But this is just a small part of the theory which could be proved or disproved without any problems to the main theory. Alright, so thank you for watching this theory. Now, you probably still think that this is ridiculous, or maybe I convinced you. If you have any questions about the theory or possible holes that I missed, please comment them down below or on Reddit, and I will try to rebuttal you as soon as I can. Links for the music and fan art used will be in the description. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to be notified when new videos come out, and tell your friends so the channel can grow. Thanks for watching. Till next time, the Absol is out.